स्क्रीन पे कुछ वाइट
नहीं
वाइट
नहीं,
सा
live,
रखो।
नहीं होगा।
live
चल
am.
चलेगा। Okay. Hello everyone. Thanks for joining today. Uh, we'll be starting in a couple of minutes. Just a second. Okay. Hi everyone. Thanks for joining today. We have with us Sarthak Agarwal. He is a GSOC at 20 at OPIA organization. And we have Danish Jamal. He is a Technojam head at Galgodias University. Uh, the more introduction will be given by the speakers only. Just quickly going through the agenda for the today is
Just a minute, I guess. Danish Bhaiya left.
okay. Danish is also here. Hey Danish.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. Can you please make us walk through the agenda for the today's?
Okay, so first of all, welcome everyone. Myself Dani Jamal. I am the current head of Technojam. So today we'll be dealing with like everything about architecture component. And if you are not familiar with this jargon of words, then please be patient. We'll be dealing with everything in step-by-step procedure. So first of all, we'll be dealing with architecture components and what are the different patterns in which we apply those components and how to write a better, more scalable, more readable code. Like we will be following the proper guidelines, like how to write a code. Writing code is pretty easy task. Like we can learn the few steps, we can see the documentation, and we can write the code. But as we scale our code, as our app grows bigger, then it's like quite difficult. So we'll be dealing with that only in today's like entire session. And then in the second part, Sarthak will be walking you through the birthday card app, where we'll be building a birthday card app entirely from the scratch, where he will be providing a GitHub links also. And at the end, we'll be having a Q&A session where everyone can ask your doubts, and we'll be love to have all the doubts and clear them. So that is all today's agenda, and we'll be continuing it. So Piyush, should I start, or it's there is anything else you want to say? Hello, Piyush.
Hey Danish, you can start. Uh,
Okay, so let's begin with today's session. So first of all, like before starting anything, let me answer few of the questions. Like, what is actual the architecture pattern? Like, what is the meaning of this terminology, which is like very famous in industry, in Android development especially. And it's not only like related to Android development; it's like related to project. Like wherever we do a project development or like we are building any software, then we have to follow certain guidelines or certain patterns which will make the procedure which will make the procedure better scalable. Like for example, if I talk in layman terms, like if I am writing a code and I am a very beginner, I will be lying entire function in a single Java file. I won't be bothering like why should I segregate the code in different parts, why should I segregate it, because like it's very easy for me to write everything in one place. But for example, suppose like our project grows really big, then it's very hard to manage the entire thing in small files. Like if you want to if you are having a single activity, then writing all the business logic, all the UI components in a single Java file is very like hectic task. Yes, we can do that. I'm not saying that it's not possible, it's possible. And at the beginning level we do the same thing. But what Google says, we always must do a thing in efficient manner so that the code is more scalable. The thing here is scalable. So for if anyone reads your code, then it is more familiar to other person also, not only to you. So if later on you want to make any changes, for example, suppose you are building any music app, you are having the UI component separated and business logic separated, which is fetching songs from the API or internet. Then there is a backend team which is only working on the fetching and API integration and everything, and there is another team which is working on the front end part. So if everything is at one place and any two of the people want to make any changes, then they are working in the same directory or same files. So like it's very hard to maintain and track all those changes. But if the things are segregated in different portions or different files, and if both are working parallelly, then it has two benefits. First of all, the tracking is very easy. Like you can easily identify uh, which part uh, um, which part has been changed. And secondly, it makes the development process really fast, because in this the testing and everything can be performed in parallel manner. So that's the whole idea of architecture pattern. Architecture pattern basically provides you the guidelines or steps to structure your code, so that your codes become more scalable and more friendly. So for next, we have already discussed why architecture pattern is required, because as our code base grows really big, then it's really difficult to manage everything in a single place. That's why we need the architecture pattern. Now, before talking about the individual architecture pattern, I would be like giving you the few examples related to the real life, because like we can find a ton of tutorials on MVC, MVP, what are these? But as a beginner, what I find is we need a more realistic example which everyone must understand. So the first architecture pattern is MVC. Before starting MVC, I will like to give a life example. For example, every person goes to a restaurant. Just suppose you are going to a restaurant and you need to order some food. So for ordering the food, what is the basic pattern we follow? What, we go to the restaurant, we sit on a table, waiter comes to us, he takes the order, and then he goes to the kitchen, and then he gives the order to the cook, and then cook gathers the ingredients, prepare the food, and he again calls the waiter, and waiter take the food and it draws to you. So the basic thing which I want everyone to notice here is that you as a person going to a restaurant and cook is nowhere related, but you are having a food which is cooked by that cook. So what is happening here is like both the things are segregated, like it's different, totally different, nothing related. And what is moderating everything? It is the basic waiter who is like taking your order, going to the cook. So the whole idea is exactly the similar. What MVC does is it separates the view and the model. What is model? Model is the like object classification of data which we are be fetching from backend. It can be anything. It can be on device database. It can be like API integrations and all. And here view is nothing, like we as a person going to restaurant is a view which is like visible to the user, which is the main the thing to which we interact to. And what is controller? Controller is waiter. What controller does, it takes order from view, and then it goes to model, and then it gives instruction, then model do something, and then model returns the thing to controller, and then controller go back to view. So this was the basic idea of how access patterns are designed and why it is required. Now there is a bit different in the example I gave and MVC. What MVC does is like here everyone can see the arrows. This arrow signifies it plays a very crucial role, because changing this arrow can entirely change the pattern. So what this arrow depicts is what the controller and view has two-way relation. So it means that controller will view can also give guidance to controller, and it can also like receive the instruction from controller. But between controller and model there is only one way relation. So only controller can give instruction to model. So now the question arises, how view observe the model? So if there is any change in the model, then we use a observer. Observer can be different. different in different contexts. Like in Android, there can be a entire API library, observer library, which we use to apply MVC. If you are building any .NET application, then it can be different. But the basic idea is there is one observer which observes the model throughout. If there is any change in model, then it directly receives the data from model. So this is the bit different from the example which I gave you, the restaurant example. So don't get confused. That was the basic idea of the architecture pattern to make you understand how things work. Mm, so moving further, so this was MVC. So view controller has a two-way relation and controller model has a one-way relation. So if there is any change to model, model doesn't respond to controller. Rather, it's change the data, and observer class informs the view that there is a change of data. Now you update the UI part. So in this way, the entire UI part is sitting in different context, and the model is sitting in different context. It has no relation. Moving further, the next pattern we have is MVP, which stand for Model View Presenter. So what the change here is, like in the earlier example, as you can see that view is interacting, not exactly interacting, but it is observing the model. So there is one point, like there is one loophole, like the main idea of separating the things, and this observer breaks that idea. Like it is creating a one connection between view and model. So to eliminate this, we have the MVP. What MVP does is it brings a two-way relation between presenter and model. So now controller sorry, presenter has been renamed to, sorry, controller has been renamed to presenter. Why? Because the controller is presenting itself to both view also and model also. So it is acting as a presenter. So here view asks presenter to fetch data, then presenter goes to model. It gives the instruction, model performs the task in backend. It can be anything related to database or business logic. Then it returns back the data, not to observer, but this time to the presenter itself, and presenter takes that data back to view. Now there is one more problem in the coding, in the entire project building guideline. There is one guideline suggesting that if we are building any architecture pattern, then the main motive should be we always should have, or like maximum possible relation should be one way relation. So further MVP was modified to MVVM, which we'll be dealing next. So what MVVM is, following the basic one line statement which I just spoke, that the basic single relation model needs to follow. That's why MVVM exists. It's eliminate the two-way relation. Here view model only have the context of view. View model can only interact with view, and model can only receive data from view model. No else relation. So what's the difference? The difference here is like in MVP, we have the basic business logic, the API integration, and the data processing. Like if we get the data from backend, then we need to process it. So in that case, in MVP, we do that kind of thing in model also, in presenter also. Like it's more of a like a debatable topic. Many people will say that we do it in a model, we do it in a presenter, but it's totally fine in MVP. But in MVVM, everything is in a different way. In MVVM, there is a strict guideline, a static guideline which we need to follow. What MVVM says is, in model, we store all the object and classes files, like all the objects coming from the backend and entire thing. And in view model, we do the all the API integration and like in between the logic, like the time between the, returning object to the UI and fetching from the API. The middle part is entirely handled by view model, not the model. So view model is nothing but it's like the live object of model. So we have a model static class, for example users. ठीक है, तो यूजर जैसे आपको सारा यूजर का ऑब्जेक्ट बता रहा है कि यूजर का नाम, एड्रेस, ये सारी चीजें हैं. तो मॉडल क्या करेगा, वो उसके पास सारे डेटा होंगे, पर उस डेटा को व्यू को प्रेजेंट कैसे करना है वो व्यू मॉडल करता है. इसीलिए वो मतलब कि वो मॉडल को लेके व्यू के हिसाब से उसको कॉन्फ़िगर करता है। लाइक देयर इज अ इंटरमीडिएट स्टेप्स, इट्स नॉट ओनली प्रेजेंटिंग। एमवीपी और एमवीसी में क्या होता है, कंट्रोलर डायरेक्टली गिव्स द डेटा टू व्यू, वहां पे बीच में कोई प्रोसेसिंग नहीं होती है, वो डायरेक्टली उसको दे देता है। पर यहाँ पे व्यू मॉडल के अंदर वी हैव द इंटायर कंट्रोल ओवर इट। लाइक अगर हम यूजर में से कुछ हटाना है, फिर वी हैव टू ऐड एनीथिंग, वी हैव टू सब्ट्रैक्ट एनीथिंग, दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स इज entirely to be handled in view model. एंड दिस इज नॉट लाइक कि हम ऐसा करें या ना करें, लाइक दिस इज अ गाइडलाइन, दिस इज अ पैटर्न। इफ यू फॉलो दिस पैटर्न देन लाइक in simple your life will be very easy, because editing code and handling different parts is very easy and very efficient also. So these were the few major architecture patterns which are followed in Android. But the most famous is MVVM only, because it's like the recommended or the convention by Google. So most of the application, recent application, if you will be building large scale, it will be most probably following the MVVM guideline only. So now, like most of the people must be a bit confused or thinking like, what is the actual need of architecture pattern? So let me give you one of the another example, more of a technical example. Uh, Earlier in Android development, for example, everyone must be knowing about the screen rotation, screen orientation, where many apps have the landscape orientation also, portrait orientation also. So when you like rotate your device, then it automatically sensors it and rotates the entire everything displayed on your device. So before when this architecture pattern or MVVM doesn't exist, then what was the case? If you need to build anything which is related to network, like if you are fetching anything from internet, then for example you are displaying a list of movies in your mobile app. There is a screen, you are displaying a list of movies. Then earlier what happened, if you doesn't follow any architecture pattern and you are going like simply building using a recycler view and laying out the things, then what will happen, if you rotate the screen, then your activity will restart. So if you have gone through the life cycle, then on rotating the screen, the on rotating the screen, the entire data will be fetched again. So it's like basic, you are every time you are rotating the device, then the data is reloaded. But what actually you see in the most of the application, like for example youtube displays a list of videos, but rotating it doesn't make it reload. So how that's happening? Earlier, if MVVM was not there, we need to extend the loader class. And what loader does it? While rotating the device, it basically packages everything and saves it, all the orientation and everything, like what data are displayed on your screen. And when the landscape mode is switched, then it returns back that data. So कहने में बहुत आसान है, बट लाइक व्हेन यू आर बिल्डिंग द रियल स्टफ, तो लोडर क्लास को एक्सटेंड करना एंड सारे मेथड्स लिखना, इट वाज अ वेरी हेक्टिक टास्क. बट जब एमवीवीएम आया, नाउ व्हाट द सीन इज, you don't need to do anything. You simply write all the API thing or network call in like view model. आप व्यू मॉडल में सारी चीजें लिख दो, and the view is itself. Now when you rotate your screen, the changes are only made to the view. So your screen rotates, the text view rotates, but the entire data residing in view model, and there is no change in view model. View model is not dependent. So view model has its own context. So if you are like performing a network call, and in between, if you rotate your device, then that data is loading in the background. And when you do your device is rotated, then the data will be returned. So like it's very efficient. It's like it reduces the length of the code very much. Earlier we used to like 50, 60, 70 basic line. If you are building very basic thing, then only we need to extend the loader class, entire thing. Now that everything is deprecated, and this pattern is used. So one of the most important thing which is solved is context management. So now when we code based on this architecture pattern, then we are like more context oriented, like where things are binded to each other, rather than using a single rather than ignoring this context. If we are building the app and we are ignoring the API call and everything, But now using MEVM, even a beginner, if you are starting, then with the basic code also, like you can focus on these things where user experience matters. So that was all from my side. This is like a basic architecture pattern. Now, one more thing that I am missing is architecture component. So architecture pattern is like the basic guidelines, and what the architecture component is, the different components. Like if we are developing any Android app and we wanted to use MVVM, then लाइक थ्योरी में तो मैंने बता दिया कि हाँ वो सेग्रीगेट होगा, पर एक्चुअल में हमें कुछ चीजें चाहिए होती है, जैसे मैंने बताया था ऑब्जर्वर. सो व्हाट इज ऑब्जर्वर? तो एंड्रॉइड आर्किटेक्चर कंपोनेंट क्या होता है? हर सेपरेट लाइक व्हाट वी से आर्किटेक्चर के लिए, मतलब जैसे एंड्रॉइड अगर आप बिल्ड कर रहे हो, किसी लिनक्स सिस्टम के लिए कोई एप्लीकेशन बिल्ड कर रहे हो, तो दे हैव देयर ओन separate components which provides like classes and API references, जिससे कि आप वो सारे आर्किटेक्चर अपने उस ऐप में इम्प्लीमेंट कर पाओ. सो अगर मैं एंड्रॉइड की बात करूँ तो एंड्रॉइड में लाइक देयर इज लाइफ साइकिल ओनर क्लास, देयर इज like let me show you, there is a component like live data class, view model class, room class. These all are the different classes, or you can say the API. This is built by Google to implement MVVM or any architecture pattern. You can use them in any architecture pattern. It's not necessary that you have to use in MVVM only. But in Android, we follow most of the time MEM, then we can use the term MEM also. So if you are building any architecture, developing any Android app based on any architecture pattern, then to build more efficiently, we need certain classes and certain APIs to implement those concepts, which are like which I have discussed in theory. So Google has provided us with many classes. There's live data. You can also read here the description what it does. So that is all about architecture components. That's why like it's called a component, because it's the basic component which is used to build that architecture. So that was the one point I was missing. So now I would like to hand over it to Sarthak, where he will be dealing with the more hands-on session. Sarthak, you can take over.
Yes, thank you, Danish Priya, for this wonderful explanation. Architecture patterns are very important. While I was working with a lot of organizations, they actually use these architecture patterns, and basic motive ये होता है कि whenever there are new people coming, तो उनका way of using of those of that code base वो थोड़ा ease हो जाए. So that is the basic motive. And testing में भी बहुत बहुत automated testing में भी बहुत ज़्यादा easy हो जाता है when we use certain architecture pattern. So let me just share my screen and see कि हम लोग क्या आज बनाने वाले हैं. Um, okay. So this is the birthday card application that we're going to make. It's a simple application. ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं है इसमें. There are just two screens. There are just two edit text boxes and just one submit button. In the first box, we'll just write the name of the person whose birthday it is. In the second box, we'll just write who is the sender, and then we'll just press the submit button, and this is this landing screen that will come back. We've also implemented this back button. So when we press on it, we just come back to the main screen. Okay, so let's just get started with it. All right. Okay, so the first thing that we'll do, so I'm assuming that all of you know how to create a project in Android Studio. So just starting with an empty activity, it's fine to start with an empty activity. And I have written this code beforehand, so that there are no errors that occur during the course of this whole presentation. Okay, so the first view that we talk about is the first activity view. We call this the main activity. So how I've arranged it is, this is basically a linear layout inside a relative layout. Linear layout are what? Linear layout is a container view, I guess, जिसके अंदर the child layouts, they get arranged in a certain manner. either या तो vertical या फिर horizontal. So here we've used this vertical orientation of the linear layout, जहाँ पे there are two text views, one for entering the name of the person whose birthday it is, second for the entering of the name of the person जो wish कर रहा है, and third just submit button so that we can move to the next activity. This is a linear layout. I've put this inside a relative layout so that I can just put this in the middle of the screen. Okay, let's just see what the code looks like of this. Um, it's a basic code, ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं करना. First we declare the variables. So variable declaration कैसे होता है? Uh, okay, one thing I missed in the main activity is the IDs. So whenever you're coding the layouts, just be sure to give every each and every element an ID. जो element आप code में use करोगे, बी श्योर कि आप उसको एक आईडी दो. व्हाई? बिकॉज दोज आईडीज आर द वन जिसके थ्रू आप रेफरेंस करोगे वेन एवर यू आर actually taking text, getting text as an input, or just showing something. So here there is this to et. Et means edit text. This is this from et, the from one, and this is the submit button, the id. There are three IDs. So when let's move on to the code. This is where we declare the variables. Now, in Kotlin, there are two types of variable declarations. One is var and the second one is val. VAL and VAR. Now, VAR are variables which can change over the course of this activity. So I can change the value of this edit text or something like that. But val, those values cannot be changed. They are constants. They're not variables. So just simple. So let's just talk about this first line: private latent var from et and just colon and then edit text. Now, what does this define? So private means that this whole variable, it's going to it's just of use inside this activity. We cannot use it from outside this activity, from outside this class. Latent var is that its initialization will be when the activity will be created. We're not just initializing it as of now. We'll be initializing it whenever there's this activity gets created. From et is its name, semicolon, and then edit text defines the type. So whenever we are using a latent var, we should always define the type, otherwise it will not get started. Otherwise, what we simply do is, if we just want to define it straight away, what we do is, suppose private var a is equals to b. So here simply we do not have to define the type. It will straight away take up the type of this element, and just we can use it anyway. All right. So these are the three variables we're going to use: the from et, to et, and the submit button. This is the companion object. We'll come to that later when we'll be actually using it. Here, okay, so the on create function. So this is the on create function. It gets called. It's an overridden function. It is called whenever the activity gets created inside our phones. So whenever this application opens and this activity gets created, this function is the first function to be called here, on create. So what we do here is, first we'll initialize the latent variables that we've mentioned above. So here is it. How we define it is, so what we basically have to do is, हमें from et का जो वेरिएबल हमारे कोड में है, हमें उसे लिंक करना है हमारे edit text से जो हमारे लेआउट में है. So हमने, आपको याद होगा, हमने अपने लेआउट में we've declared some ID for it. So what we do is, from et, this variable का नाम is equals to find view by ID, and then we give the ID. So how we give the ID is r.id.from et. Now, R is basically just referencing the resources of this project. .id and .from et. From et is the specific ID of the layout we are linking here. Similarly, इधर हम to et और submit button को भी link कर देंगे. Now, let's move on to the submit button. So submit button पे हमें basically करना क्या है? Submit button के click पे we have to move to the second activity, which is the card activity. So हम लोग कैसे करते हैं? We set an on click listener on the submit button. So we just simply put it submit button dot set on click listener and just open these curly brackets. Now inside this curly bracket, there's this code where we'll actually put values and we'll move forward to the next activity. Now when we have to move to the next activity, हमें एक्चुअल में दो वैल्यूज पास करनी है उस एक्टिविटी को, उस क्लास को. ना वो दो वैल्यूज क्या है? एक जो जिसका बर्थडे है उसका, सेकंड जो विश कर रहा है उसका नाम. सो हम क्या करेंगे? फर्स्ट वी डिक्लेयर एन इंटेंट. सो इंटेंट इज बेसिकली द वे जहाँ पे आप एक एक्टिविटी से दूसरी एक्टिविटी में ट्रांसफर करते हैं. So how I've declared it here is val intent is equals to intent class का declaration. Now इस class declaration में दो parameters हैं. First is the package context, which is this class, the main activity class which we're currently in. So this variable here defines main activity. The second parameter is the card activity, the class of the card activity जिस पे हमें जाना है. So intent जिस activity पे हम हैं से जिस activity पे हमें जाना है. So these are the two parameters that we gave here. Now card activity colon class dot java. So it's just a basic class declaration of the card activity. अब हमें इस इंटेंट के साथ में हमें एक्स्ट्रा वैल्यूज सेंड करनी है वो दो वेरिएबल्स की. नाउ हाउ विल डू इट? सो हम इंटेंट में एक्स्ट्रा डालेंगे. सो वील जस्ट इंटेंट डॉट पुट एक्स्ट्रा. नाउ इसमें हमें दो वैल्यूज देनी है हर एक एक्स्ट्रा के अंदर. फर्स्ट इज द की एंड सेकंड इज द वैल्यू. सो की वैल्यू पेयर बन के जाता है सो दैट हम की के नाम से वहां पे हम वैल्यू फेच कर सकें दूसरी एक्टिविटी में, दूसरी क्लास में. So अब आता है companion object का काम. Now what is companion object? Companion object is basically an object जिसके through we can access members of a certain class from the other class. So basically public variables होते हैं, public constants होते हैं. So here I've declared two constants, from name and to name. So these are just basically the keys. So इन ही को यूज करके मैं वहां पे एक्सट्रैक्ट करूंगा ये वैल्यूज और यही वो नेम्स हैं जिनको मैं अभी एज कीज डाल रहा हूँ इन द इंटेंट. सो बेसिकली कंपेनियन ऑब्जेक्ट का एक बहुत बड़ा यूज तब आता है when we integrate APIs inside our application. So when we created the like I've worked on retrofit. So while working with retrofit, आपको एक retrofit object बनाना होता है, retrofit instance बनाना होता है, client बनाना होता है basically. So what you do is you can add member functions into it and इसके हिसाब से आप वहाँ पे वो API को कॉल कर सकते हो, वो retrofit object को create करके कॉल कर सकते हो. तो इसके अंदर वैसे हम लोग फंक्शंस भी डाल सकते हैं. जैसे सपोज देयर इज दिस वैल्यू प्राइवेट a is equal to suppose a, right? So private var, alright. So हम यहाँ पे एक फंक्शन डिक्लेयर कर सकते हैं fun update. इसके अंदर हम एक वैल्यू लेंगे b जो एक स्ट्रिंग टाइप का होगा. एंड व्हाट वील डू हियर इज सिंपली हम a की वैल्यू को हम b के इक्वल कर देंगे. सिंपल, नथिंग मच. ज़्यादा कुछ हमें करना नहीं होता. एंड ऐसे ही हम लोग फंक्शंस को यूज कर लेते हैं, ऐसे ही हम लोग उनको आगे बढ़ सकते हैं. सो बेसिकली ऐसे होगा. So whenever we're using this function from outside this class, so whenever हम लोग suppose हमने card activity से ही हमने या फिर हमने जब ये activity बनाई, suppose main activity से पहले भी एक और activity थी, suppose splash activity थी, splash screen थी. Splash screen is a screen जो application खोलने पे आपको सबसे पहले दिखती है. So अगर हमें उसके initialization पे कोई value इसके अंदर डालनी है, so what we do is हम लोग ये वाला फंक्शन कॉल करेंगे एंड हम इसकी कुछ वैल्यूज को सेट कर देंगे. सो यूटिलिटी ऑफ दिस कैन बी कि हमें सपोज अपने इसके अंदर एक ग्राफ लोड करना है ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द डेट. नाउ डेट इज द करंट डेट. अब हमने क्या किया, स्प्लैश स्क्रीन पे हमने करंट डेट फेच करी, करंट डेट को हमने इसमें अपडेट कर दिया. सो इस वेरिएबल को हमने अपडेट किया और उसके बेसिस पे हमने ग्राफ दिखा दिया इस एक्टिविटी के अंदर. सो बिफोर कमिंग टू दिस एक्टिविटी यहाँ पे हमने पहले ही उसको इनिशियलाइज कर दिया उस वैल्यू को. अभी के लिए कंपेनियन ऑब्जेक्ट का काम आप कीज के बेसिस पे देख सकते हो कि हम यहाँ पे कीज के नाम सेट कर रहे हैं. So here we have put this intent. Let me just remove this function. All right. So here we have put extras, from name to name, और हमने यहाँ पे दो स्ट्रिंग वैल्यू डाली है. अब ये दो स्ट्रिंग वैल्यू क्या है? ये जो एडिट टेक्स्ट है, ठीक है, एडिट टेक्स्ट के अंदर देर आर टेक्स्ट वैल्यूज. नाउ अब वो टेक्स्ट वैल्यू कुछ भी हो सकती है. इट कैन बी अ नंबर, इट कैन बी anything. So what we do is we get that text value and then we convert it to a string. So here it's from et dot text dot toString, and yeah, from et.text.toString. So यहाँ पे एक string value create हो गई. So what we're majorly doing is intent के through we're putting this extra, जहाँ पे हम एक text box की value लेके string में convert करके हम उस दूसरी activity में भेज रहे हैं. Now I think this is it for this activity. इतना काफी है. Let's move on to the second activity which we're going to use. Now this is the card activity. Here, if you can see, yeah. So here these are just three views. First is the text view, second is the image view, and third is another text. This whole is a relative layout, and I've arranged it. I've given this gravity of center. So what is gravity? Gravity is basically the positioning of the views inside it. Now this is the text view. Text view and edit text में there's this major difference. Edit text में आप input ले सकते हैं. Text view में आपको आपको input नहीं मिलेगी, but आप, हाँ, अगर आप कुछ इधर उधर करते हैं, आप इसका साइज टाइप चेंज करते हैं या कस्टमाइज करते हैं, तो हाँ, इसमें भी शायद इनपुट आ जाए. बट मेजरली टेक्स्ट व्यू का काम होता है टू शो द वैल्यूज. एडिट टेक्स्ट का काम होता है टू टेक द इनपुट ऑफ दैट वैल्यू. इन सिंपल टर्म्स, नॉट गेटिंग कॉम्प्लेक्स हियर. सेकेंड, ओके, सो इन इस टेक्स्ट व्यू को मैंने डिफाइन कैसे किया हुआ है? आई हैव गिवन दिस आईडी, ओके, एंड एवरी व्यू हैज दिस लेआउट विड्थ, लेआउट हाइट. नाउ लेआउट विड्थ एंड लेआउट हाइट आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर एवरी व्यू, ताकि वो डिफाइन हो जाए कि वो उसका साइज कितना रहेगा. सो आई हैव हियर डिक्लेयर्ड लेआउट विथ एज मैच पेरेंट. पेरेंट इज द रिलेटिव लेआउट which is the whole view, and the height of this view will be wrapping the content. So suppose this text size here is 20 sp, so this view will wrap whatever height is there. So चाहे अगर मैं इसको 24 sp कर दूं या 50 sp कर दूं, so वो ही रहेगा उसका साइज. उसकी जो width, वो height होगी, वो उस हिसाब से adjust हो जाएगी. The text color here is black. I have given this demo text here using the string, what we say, string XML class. So this is the string resource file. I'll come to that later. This is a very important file which we should always use whenever we are building a project. Okay. And with text color is black. Layout margin I've given of 20 dp. Now, whenever we're setting the values, just remember that whenever text is involved, the values, the dimension size should always be in sp, and whenever other things other than the text are involved, it should always be in dp. It's just a pixel thing, pixel soft, and वो वाली बात होती है कि टेक्स्ट के टाइम पे चाहे हम कितना भी जूम करें, हमें पिक्सल्स परफेक्ट चाहिए, हमें ज्यादा वो क्या कहते हैं, डिफ्रैगमेंटेशन नहीं चाहिए अगर हम जूम करते हैं तो. सो एसपी इज अ सॉफ्टर वे ऑफ गोइंग फॉर द पिक्सल. Then there's this image view. Now image view is basically just for showing this image. So whenever we declare an image view, we have to declare a source. Source is the image. So before starting this project, I downloaded an image from the internet, and I have put this inside my drawable folder here, and I've named it to image.jpg. All right. So how I use it is activity.cart में मैंने drawable @drawable/image डाला, and I can use this as a resource. Now layout below. Now what does this mean? Layout below से हम एक IT define करते हैं जिस लेआउट के नीचे ये वाला लेआउट सेट होगा. So suppose text view की ID थी 2tv. So 2tv, tv means text view. So हम लोगों ने इस लेआउट को, image view को text view के नीचे कर दिया. ठीक है. एंड सिमिलरली जो थर्ड वाला लेआउट है उसको हमने इमेज व्यू के नीचे कर दिया, एंड वी हैव गिवन द सेम काइंड ऑफ प्रॉपर्टीज जो हमने ऊपर वाली टेक्स्ट व्यू को दी थी. द ओनली डिफरेंस हियर इज आई हैव गिवन द ग्रेविटी टू एंड. नाउ एंड इज at the end of the screen. So तभी आप इसको बिल्कुल यहाँ पे देख पा रहे हैं at the end of the screen, because I wanted to make it in a this like in a normal orientation manner, like it's the text which is on the upper side वो start में रहेगा, image बीच में रहेगी, and then the ending text, the trailing text comes in the last. So इस वे में orientation हमने set करी है इसकी. I've given this also a margin of 20 dp just for representation purposes. You can increase, you can decrease, whatever you feel like. You can just play around with this and you can discover properties here. You can actually just enhance this whole view for whenever you're required. Okay, now let's move on to the class. Uh, okay, so here the basic motive of this card activity is to take the values which are coming from the previous activity and display them inside the values. So जो हमने ये दो टेक्स्ट व्यू देखे थे, एक एंड दो, इसके अंदर यहाँ पे जैसे हैप्पी बर्थडे एबीसी आ रहा है, सो एबीसी की जगह पे देयर विल बी द नेम ऑफ द पर्सन जिसका बर्थडे है, एंड एक्स वाई जी की जगह पे देयर विल बी द नेम ऑफ द पर्सन जिसने भेजा है. So we're just setting that card activity. Okay. So here, similar to the main activity, we are initial like just declaring the variables, the two text views. Here we are initializing the two variables using their ID. So find view by ID हमने फिर से use किया है here. Then we use the intent feature. So whenever we're using this, there's an intent that comes along. So जब ये एक्टिविटी खुली तो एक इंटेंट आया था, राइट? सो वो इंटेंट के साथ में हम एक एक्स्ट्रा फाइल आई होगी, गेट स्ट्रिंग एक्स्ट्रा करे हमने, हमें पता है कि हमने भेजा, तो हम यहाँ पे इसको सिंपल सिंपल प्रोजेक्ट के तौर पे अगर मैं कर रहा हूँ तो इसको मैं ऐसे ही कर सकता हूँ. अदरवाइज देर आर नल चेक्स जिसको हमें परफॉर्म करना चाहिए, देर आर ओवररिडन फंक्शन जिसके बेसिस पे हम कर सकते हैं, बट जस्ट फॉर सिंप्लिसिटी हमने इसको सिंपली ऐसे कर दिया. Now, whenever we use this get string extra, we have to define a key. Now, this key वही की है जो हमने main activity में companion object में declare करी थी. So, how we access that companion object के जो members हैं is this way. Main activity dot from name. Just simply. So, main activity is the name of the class. Dot just for the initializer, and then from name. From name is the name of the member. So, when we go to the main activity, we can check this is the from name, this is the to name, and we go on and we just use this. Similar to this to et, we just get this get string extra, and then we use the key for to name. Now we have to set the values inside the text view. Now here we set the values. So from text view dot text is equals to. Now here comes the tricky part. This can be simplified. So let me just simplify it for you guys. What we can do here is happy birthday and from. All right. So this is the simplified version of this. Uh, Happy birthday from ET. So what it will do is it will display this message from ET is the value that is coming from there, and all right. So happy birthday from ET here, and then we can similarly do this for text view as well. Then other than this, there is this another function that you can use is using the string resource file. Now, what is the string resource file? Now, string resource file is a file inside the res folder. You can find it inside the res folder. Then we go to the values, and then we can find the strings.xml. Now, what we do here is we define the names of the string values, like we give them the IDs and we then give them a value. So here I have given these two, you can see these two values. So this is from text view and to text view. We have defined this from %s. So when so जिसने भी C में काम किया हुआ है, जिसको भी C का थोड़ा सा एक्सपीरियंस है, तो you must remember कि %d %s हम यूज करते हैं, and then we use a comma and then we give the value. So वो चीज उसमें सेट हो जाती है. So this is the same concept here. हम लोग यहाँ पे %s यूज कर रहे हैं from में, and then happy birthday %s यूज कर रहे हैं. So %s will is just an indicator कि यहाँ पे हमें string value देनी है. Now how we use this is हम लोगों ने get string किया, and r.string.main card to text, and then comma में हमने एक string value दे दी. So this string value will be set after the value of this to text view जो हमने get string में दे रखा है main card to text को. So suppose this is the thing happy birthday percent s. So percent s की जगह पे there will come this 2et की value जो उसमें आएगा. Alright. So okay. Now we've done one more thing. Final चीज जो इस project में रहेगी, which is the back button. So back button is very simple to implement. First is we get the support action bar. There are cases जहाँ पे हम theme define करते हैं and support action bar नहीं होती है actual में. So we use this null call कि हो सकता है कि support action bar नहीं हो. So in that case यहाँ पे एक error आ जाएगा या फिर ये error से उसको साइड कर देगा. दिस फंक्शन विल बी सॉल्व. सो यहाँ पे हमने एक सपोर्ट एक्शन बार कॉल किया एंड देन वी set this set display home as up enabled button to true. Now what this will do is it will create a back button on the top left corner of your toolbar. uh, Let me just show you how it happened. So let me see. Right, and then this. So this is the button I'm talking about, back button. So now अब इसका utility कैसे set करेंगे? So back button press होने पे it came to the main activity, right? So the easiest way of doing this is setting a parent activity uh, for this card activity. So we go to the Android manifest. Now, Android manifest, let me just give you an overview of what Android manifest is. So Android manifest is the file जो Android के software को बताता है कि what are the functionalities that we're going to use, this app is going to use. So here we do a lot of things. हम लोग यहाँ पे user permissions define करते हैं. Suppose एक application को APIs call करनी है, networking करनी है. So we define user permissions like this: users permission and then internet, and then we'll just we close. So this is a user permission um, for accessing the internet of the device. And so this way, in this project, we'll not use that because we don't need any internet connection for this because this is a simple app. Now, what the major use of here coming here is setting the parent activity of the card activity. So here we have set this. This is the declaration. So every activity that you create will be declared here. There will be a small XML declaration here. So this is the name of the activity, card activity, and we have just declared a parent activity, which is the main activity. Main activity क्या है? जो first page जो हमें दिखता है वो main activity है, और जो second page हमें दिखता है वो card activity है. So second page का parent कौन है? First वाला page. Alright. So we've just declared that. So अब क्या होगा? Whenever we press that back button, we'll just come back and we'll be brought back to the main activity. Intent filters, अगर आपके दिमाग में आया, what are these intent filters? Intent filters are basically defining the action and category. So एक activity जो main है and launcher है, this will be the first activity that comes opens up whenever the screen is launched. So basically जिन apps में splash screen होती है, so this is the filter जो हम लोग उसमें लगा देते हैं splash screen में, ताकि वो screen सबसे पहले खुले, that is the launcher screen. एंड या इसके अंदर हम और चीजें भी कंटेंट प्रोवाइडर्स वगैरह करते हैं, बट आई डोंट थिंक अभी वो कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी बढ़ानी चाहिए. राइट, सो आई गेस दिस इज इट. इतना ही था. एंड हाउ दिस प्रोजेक्ट विल रन इज आई शोन यू बिफोर एज वेल. जस्ट so just write the name and here, simple. This simple application, just try it out, and कोई दिक्कत आती है तो just ask me. You can shoot your comments. We'll be having a Q&A session right now as well, so उसमें भी आप पूछ सकते हैं. And if there's any doubt, I will be happy to answer. Please ask in the comments. Uh, Danish Bhaiya, can you please come back? Just I'm done with this. Let me just see some questions. Yep. Danish, can you share your screen? Hello.
I guess he is disconnected right now, or he's some having some network issue. So
Oh,
like
all right.
we can go through some issue like questions which are asked.
Yeah.
Uh,
I don't think there are much questions, but yeah, if anyone has any doubts regarding what we just did, or regarding the whole study jam, or regarding any of the apps that you're building inside this program, just feel free to ask a question and we'll be happy to answer.
and I would like to mention that you need to complete both the track and at least a complete second track, uh, which is the prior to programming to avail the certificate. Uh, the you have to submit an Android app at the end of the program, which will be evaluated by the Googlers. After that, you will be providing with the certificates. And today we'll be sending you a form, Google form, in which so that we can keep a track what you are doing, well, like how your progress is going on. So I guess that's pretty much.
All right. For the certificate, just a quick mention that you have to at least complete the second track, which is the difficult track, I guess. Because
Uh,
beginner track you cannot have the,
that's prior to programming.
yeah, prior to programming track. Okay, so we have a question. Why not you use constant layout? Yeah, we can use constant layout. There's no doubt. There's no harm in using constant layout here. I just use relative layout and linear layout because I'm comfortable using them. You can use them as per your convenience. And बहुत सारे layout हैं यार, अगर मैं सारे एक जगह पे use कर लूँगा, so I don't think that will make much sense. We should keep things simple. There's no harm in using a constant layout. You can definitely use them.
So I guess that's it about for today. Thank you so much, Sarthak. Thank you so much, Danish, for joining us today, and thank you for such being a lovely audience to us. Thank you. See you soon, guys. We'll be having our next session on 16th of January.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, everyone.